Mr. President, earlier this week, we learned about the young Jordanian pilot who was horrifically burned alive in a cage at the hands of the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant, we call ISIL. This is the same group that haunts us with images of beheadings and mass murders week after week and enslaves women into servitude. The same group that recently declared that it's determined to, quote, reach America, close quote. My friends, we live in a world that is scary, and it's not just ISIL. It's the lone wolves who gather ammunition and equipment and carefully draft plans to attack us where we work, like the attack we saw last year in Ottawa and last month in Paris, as well as the individual from Ohio who was planning to attack the U.S. Capitol right here in Washington, D.C. It's pandemics like Ebola. It's the criminals trying to traffic illegal drugs and human beings across our borders and through our ports of entry. It's those individuals trying to sabotage our airplanes and our trains. And it's those people trying to attack our computer networks and critical infrastructure. But thanks in large part to the work of the Department of Homeland Security and its employees, Americans are safe, or at least a lot safer than we otherwise would be. Our airplanes and our airports are protected 24/7. Our borders and our ports throughout our country are secure. Trafficking of illegal drugs and human beings is better controlled, and our critical infrastructure networks are better protected. For anybody to think that it makes sense to put the Department of Homeland Security out of business, to put it on the sidelines at this point in time, in this world in which we live, I ask, have we lost our minds? I hope not. I hope not. Yet today, here in the United States Congress, we're locked in a political debate about whether or not we fund that very agency that's charged with keeping us, Americans, those who live here with us, from the Islamic State and any other number of additional threats. That's irresponsible and shameful behavior. In order for the Department of Homeland Security to efficiently and effectively carry out its critical role in combating the multiple and ever-changing threats that our country faces, the department needs fiscal certainty, and it needs the full support of this Congress. Throughout this week, I joined nearly half of my Senate colleagues to reject the House funding bill for the Department of Homeland Security, H.R. 240, which contains riders that block the president's recent immigration actions. Many of our colleagues on both sides of the aisle have significant concerns with these amendments, and the president has promised that he would veto this bill if these amendments are not stripped from it. My colleagues' insistence that we accept these House amendments is jeopardizing timely enactment of a vital and bipartisan Homeland Security funding bill and threatens to prolong the crippling budget uncertainty that the Department of Homeland Security has been operating under since last year. On top of that, according to the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office, this House bill, with its amendments, would increase deficits over the next 10 years by a total of $7.5 billion. So instead of helping our nation move forward with our economic recovery and our deficit reduction, this bill would move us backward. Now, look, I understand why some of our colleagues are upset about the president's immigration policies. We can and we should have a debate about those concerns. And we started that process just yesterday in the Committee on Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs, where I serve as its ranking member. Let me remind my colleagues that we wouldn't even be here having this conversation today or that hearing yesterday if Congress had finished the job that we began some 2 years ago in the United States Senate, right here on this floor. As most of my colleagues in this chamber will recall, 2/3 of the Senate came together in 2013. We passed by a wide margin a comprehensive immigration reform bill. Was it perfect? No. But we took significant steps in it to fix our badly broken and outdated immigration system and to enhance the security of our borders. At the same time, the bill would have reduced our budget deficit by nearly $1 trillion. $1 trillion over the next 20 years, according to the Congressional Budget Office. Let me repeat that. Comprehensive immigration reform, adopted here by a 2/3 vote, would reduce our deficit by nearly $1 trillion over the next 20 years. So we demonstrated almost 2 years ago that we can debate our nation's immigration policies in a thoughtful way right here in the Senate, and I think over in the House. There's no reason why we can't do it again. We need to have this debate on the Senate floor like we did last Congress. We need to have this debate on committees like we did in the last Congress. We need to have this debate in our towns and states across America like we did in the last Congress. But we should not have this debate while we're deciding the fate of the budget of the nation's most critical national security agency, the Department of Homeland Security. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. All three former Department of Homeland Security Secretaries, Republican Tom Ridge, Michael Chertoff, and Democrat Janet Napolitano wrote to the Republican leadership last week, and this is what they said. This is a quote from the three of them. "We do not question your desire to have a larger debate about the nation's immigration laws. However, we cannot emphasize enough that the Department of Homeland Security's responsibilities are much broader than its responsibilities to oversee the federal immigration agencies and to protect our borders. And funding for the entire agency should not be put in jeopardy by the debate about immigration." The Washington Post editorial board has also weighed in. Last week, here's what they wrote, and I quote, "If congressional Republicans want to attack those, they're talking about those immigration actions responsibly, with discrete legislation, they're free to try. However, it's another thing to wield that frustration over immigration as a cudgel, holding hostage an entire department of government that is critical to our nation's security. That is as irresponsible, it is politically ill-advised." I could not agree more. We need to focus now on doing the job we were sent here to do, provide the funding necessary to keep America safe in an ever more dangerous world. And once we've done that, we should engage in an urgent debate on how to amend America's immigration policies for the 21st century. If we choose instead to continue down this irresponsible path toward a shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security, we will actually put America at greater risk. Why would we do that? Why would we do that? If we allow the Department of Homeland Security to shut down, here's what's going to happen. Just a few of the things that are going to happen. First of all, over 50,000 TSA security screeners keeping terrorists off of airplanes, they're going to go without pay. We want them to do our jobs. We're just not going to pay them for it. Over 40,000 Customs and Border Protection officers needed to keep our borders secure. They're going to go out without pay, too. We want them to do their jobs. We're not going to pay them either. In addition, over 13,000 immigration and customs enforcement agents enforcing our immigration laws and combating human and drug trafficking, they're going to go without pay, too. We want them to do their jobs. We're not going to pay them either. Essentially, a large part of our federal Homeland Security personnel would be working on an IOU. Now he just asks us, how is that fair? How is that fair? Well, it's not. Even if we avoid a shutdown but continue to keep the department on a continuing resolution, we prevent the men and women who work there from doing their jobs as effectively and as efficiently as they can. For example, we won't be able to replace obsolete surveillance technology along the high-risk areas of our border with Mexico. Our nation will have significantly fewer resources to respond to any future surges of unaccompanied minors along our southwest border. Morale will continue to degrade at the department, which already ranks dead last for morale among other major federal agencies. This is not how we want to be treated. It's no way that for us to treat the men and women who are working around the clock to keep us safe. It's also an egregious waste of money. As we've learned over the years, crisis budgeting costs taxpayers millions of dollars, and this latest situation is no exception. Employee hiring and research efforts at the department would come to a halt. Contracts for a variety of security projects would be stalled and will need to be renegotiated, in all likelihood at a higher cost to taxpayers. For example, a continuing resolution would delay a $600 million contract to build a national security cutter that the Coast Guard urgently needs, keep it from being awarded. This cutter is critical to stopping the illegal traffic off of our shores and ports of entry, including illegal immigration and drug and human trafficking. That's just one example. As any business owner would tell you and me, this is not the way to run a business, and it's certainly no way to run a vital national security agency of the United States of America. So how are we going to remedy this situation? Fortunately, we have a solution sitting right in front of us. The bill that Senators Mikulski and Shaheen have introduced, it's S-272, is a clean fiscal year 2015 appropriations bill, which both Democrats and Republicans agreed to just this past December, 2 months ago. This measure provides the stable full-year funding that the Department of Homeland Security and our national security need without demanding a ransom. In closing, I want to urge as strongly as I can to my colleagues in this chamber, in this body, to join me in doing the right thing. Support passage of this clean, full-year appropriations legislation for the Department of Homeland Security. Reject the amendments approved by the House. And once we've done that, let's begin a fulsome and badly needed debate that will enable us to hammer out a thoughtful 21st century immigration policy for America. A policy that is fair, a policy that will significantly reduce our nation's budget deficit, and a policy that will strengthen the economic recovery in this country that is now underway. Mr. President, with that, I would make a note that we have an absence of a quorum.